and George
William
William
Gordon.
Gordon.
George William Gordon,
Yeah,
the
those two are
reluctant
the ones
hero.
that left. Ooh.
Oh, sorry, I said that. George William Gordon was not involved in the Morant Bay Rebellion.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to FiwiFewCents, the show where we talk about Jamaica's national heroes and our national heritage. Try to understand a little bit more, get some insight and stuff like that.
Okay.
And here to talk about it with me is Osayimwese, aka Osagboro.
Okay.
All right.
Yes,
Welcome
man.
to FiwiFewCents.
Thank you very much.
Good. I got the name right?
Yeah, man. Yeah,
All
right.
Good.
Very
So
few
from
people
now
do
on,
that. Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Osa
Yes.
for my safety.
You could have tried Osayimwese still, but anyway.
Osayimwese.
Yeah, man. You could have tried for practice.
Earlier, before we started the show, he had said his name is a song. And when he said Osayimwese a while ago,
Yes.
in my head as a joke, I was going to say it multiple times, but in my head I was
Yes.
practicing it because I do that before.
That's wonderful.
So in my head I'm going like Osayimwese, Osayimwese. And it sounds like it does have that
You
little
put bass in it.
song it.
Osayimwese.
Yes, see, I'm getting music lessons now. Osayimwese. Okay, well, yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So as you guys know, ladies and gentlemen, please like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment. This is a learning experience. Ask your questions. I'll talk to him. We'll talk to you. And let's get the most out of it. So, a little intro for Osayimwese. All right, so he is a cultural theorist. He is a poet.
Yeah.
All right. And he is a founding member of the Akwaba Drummers.
Yeah.
I got that name right too as well.
Wonderful.
And lastly, I'm good at this. And lastly, not surprisingly, he makes his own clothes. So you see this night sometime.
Yeah.
Sometime.
Yeah, not all.
Okay, so this one is you?
Let me know my pants.
Okay, all right. So they're pants. So this your shirt.
Yeah.
All right. So he made his shirt
Officially.
Good.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. All right. So before we start, we have a little this or that, right? You pick one, and this is probably the one you would use, eat, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, car, truck, or motorcycle. This is your mode of transportation for the rest of your life.
Truck.
Why?
It's utilitarian. It's utilitarian. I prefer the ruggedness too as well. And since I got enough place and enough traveling all over the island, I prefer that. To me, it's rugged. It's more dependable. It's hardy. That's why I prefer that mode of transport.
Yeah. I would choose truck as well for one specific reason. So there's this thing I was told by Miss Allen, who's behind the camera, that her mother used to say trucks have something called a right of weight. Right?
Right of weight.
Right of weight.
Yeah.
Because it's big and heavy.
Yeah.
Right? Ain't nobody gonna nobody gonna come challenge the truck. No, right? So I can just drive up and down on the road quite fine. Nobody honking at me, nobody do nothing. Because why? I'm in a truck. I can just.
But I hope you don't ride the truck and become a road hog though.
No.
That's another problem as well.
Yeah, for true.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So next one. Would you rather live by the sea or live in the mountains?
I've lived by the sea, and when I moved from the sea, I was listening every night for the sound of the waves, and so I would rather live by the sea.
Okay.
Because the waves are calming, and I can get to swim every day, and I can get to fish as well.
But what if you find a river in the mountains?
If I find a river in the mountains, the river tend to dry up sometimes.
I see.
But the sea is always there. The only drawback with the sea sometimes is that when things get testy, it can come in your house.
Yeah.
Like what I experienced when I lived by the sea. I lived by the sea during Hurricane Gilbert. And Hurricane Gilbert,
that can be good.
It come in at the house.
Oh, yeah.
The waves drop on
house.
top of the house and come in at the house. But that's the only drawback. But I love the sea. I love the sea. I love the mountains too. So there's a dilemma.
Yeah.
There's a dilemma with me. So it's hard to choose one, but I've chosen the sea.
Okay, I would choose the mountain. because I like the peace and quiet and the temperature and all the things, and I'm not really that
Well,
much of a fan of
it
salt
depends
water.
on where you live by the sea, because where I live by the sea, it was really quiet. There was nobody else there.
Okay.
So it was like there was a community, it was a house by the sea. And so it was really wonderful. And it's a big yard and coconut tree in the yard, and the coconut was sweet. And I learned eventually that because of the salt water and this nearness to the sea, it fed the coconut trees. And so it had a very sweet taste. But we will live by the sea.
Okay. All right. So chickpeas or tofu?
Chickpeas.
That was easy.
The reason why I said chickpeas, that I don't know if I can trust tofu anymore.
Oh,
The reason I say I can't trust tofu anymore is like almost every single soya bean now is genetically engineered. And it's from soya bean they produce tofu. And I don't know about chickpeas as well, because maybe everything is genetically engineered nowadays. Anyway, but I prefer chickpeas because it's for some people it's more palatable. And it's because I cook sometimes for people. A lot of people, especially a lot of Jamaicans, don't have a taste for tofu.
Like me.
There you are. And so you have to be very adept in preparing it. I get prepared for me because I know how. But I prefer chickpeas because it has more natural protein. As I said before, I haven't eaten tofu for a while because of my aversion to genetically engineered foods. So I prefer chickpeas.
All right. I mean, usually I would answer the questions as well, but
You don't know about chickpeas.
No. I've had tofu, don't like it, tastes like rubber. And I almost had chickpea once, but they had meat, and I'm a meat eater, so I didn't go with the chickpea. I went with the meat.
It depends on how prepared tofu for you. Because if tofu prepared properly, I know that tastes like rubber texture. That means it has been overcooked.
Okay.
Them trying to cook it too much. It doesn't need that much because it's already processed, The soya beans have already been processed. They've already been cooked to get the milk out of it and everything. So in a sense, all you need to do is just marinate it for a while and then. But it's not about tofu, is it?
All right. Athletics or football?
Lord, I used to do both. I was on a winning champs team in high school.
Oh, which high school did you go?
Calabar.
Oh,
I was a long jumper, a hurdler, and a triple jumper. So I did that. Then I played football for my school as well. And then after I leave school, I play football for clubs. So it's a dilemma.
Well,
It's a dilemma. I'm not blowing my own horn, but I was good at both.
okay.
I was good at both. So it's a dilemma. I can't choose.
You have to
I
go.
love watch athletics.
Pick one.
Nowadays, I'm kind of tired of watching football. Can't tired of watching athletics.
I'm just getting into like heavy football watching.
Athletics.
Athletics.
Yeah, man.
Okay.
Elaine Thompson, Shellyan,
Yeah.
Usain Bolt. All the other great athletes around the world. I love watching them.
I was a track athlete in my high school days as well. I was
Which high
track,
school
not
that?
field, St. Catherine High.
Okay.
Yeah. But I would choose football. I prefer watching football. Like athletics, yes, it's nice, but I'd watch it, it would end and then it would, go away. Football is like a full 90 minutes of like ups and downs, excitements, and then there's so many teams, and I don't know, I just prefer football because it's just much wider. Right, so football for me. All right, and lastly, music or poetry?
You really? How can I choose between music and poetry? I'm a drummer. I'm a poet. You know what? For this one, there's no choice. You hear what? I choose both of them.
We're stopping right here until he picks
I choose
one.
both of them. I choose music and I choose poetry because I love music to death and I write poetry almost every single day. So how can I choose between?
Them's the rules.
Them's the rules?
Them's the rules.
All right then, poetry. Lord. This is very distressing.
So bye-bye music.
This is very distressing. This is very distressing. You put me in a dilemma that is unheard of.
Yeah, that's the point, right?
God.
We always leave the one that would hit the guest really hard for last, right? Yeah.
Are you serious?
I would choose music though. I'm not much of a poet.
No, I've been writing poetry all my life.
Oh,
I've been
nice.
playing drums all my life. So it's like, I mean, every night I play drums. Every single night. My brother them say, Osa, how you still so adept? And I say, every night I drum. You know, the drum when you come to rehearsal, every night I play my drum by myself on my veranda.
Okay.
Whatever. So It's hard, but
But
poetry.
poetry, okay. Good. We finally
Are you
settled on one.
serious? This is not nice.
All right, so we're here to talk about, the national heroes and our
Mm,
national heritage in
mm,
light of Heroes Week. Yes.
mm,
Heroes Week, Heroes Day,
mm.
just about our heroes. So one of the things I wanted to ask straight out the gate is like, why is it that we have national heroes? Or can would you be able to tell me personally why we Jamaicans, Jamaica, have national heroes?
I suppose maybe you'd have to look at it contextually
Mm.
in the formation of a nation
Mm-hmm.
at the time when we came out of enslavement and we were given the so-called notion of independence. There were people who were striving for different ideals. And in order to establish certain landmark in terms of our development, you recognize people who have made significant development to your development of your country.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's only right that we have people who we can look up to and say, these people have done a lot for us. These people have given to us some significant contribution that we can recognize. People like Nani, Heroin,
Mm-hmm.
people like Bogle, who stood up for the rights of, I call it, down-pressed peoples. And so, yes, I recognize heroes. But my problem is, I don't think we should just have only one set of heroes forever.
Mm. Yeah,
There
correct.
have
That
been other
leads into
people who
the
have
next
made
thing.
other amazing contribution and
Mm-hmm.
should also be recognized for their
For their
work.
work, yeah.
Nowadays, what they do to recognize other people is give them a CD or a OG or a OM or whatever. But that's political.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I think we should stop sticking to the idea that we can only have one set of heroes.
This the one set
We
and
should have
then.
contemporary heroes that a lot of people can relate to in today's society.
Mm-hmm.
Because every now and again you have to re-explain to the next generation that's coming up
Yeah,
who these heroes
who and
are,
and
why it
what
was
went
important their
down and
contribution was made,
yeah.
how effective it is still, what kind of benefit it is to us in the present day society. So I think we need to have more contemporary heroes that our generation can relate to, because I can hardly relate to all Bustamante.
Mm.
Really, me personally. But anyway, that's my thing. But I believe it's necessary in the nation to have heroes, to have people who are iconic and their
Who
contributions
contributed
have
to the
been
development of the nation.
seismic
Mm-hmm.
enough
Yeah, yeah.
for you to recognize it. So yeah, I have no problem with heroes.
All right. No, well, it wasn't. Yeah. All right. Cool. So you said you think there should be more,
More
right? More heroes.
contemporary heroes,
All right.
yes.
So what I would suggest is, or what I would ask you to do, is like pick a potential ace, or maybe ninth if you have two. I would have said one. I plan to ask you for like pick a eighth, but it sounds like you have like a fair amount of people. So I would
Louis
just say,
Bennett.
all right.
Louis Bennett is a
Mm-hmm.
cultural icon. Louis Bennett was the first person who wrote, well, the first person who popularized
Mm-hmm.
our normal Jamaican language into writing and performance
Mm-hmm.
and took it to the world.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can hardly even think of in the days when they used to have SDC performances from schools,
Mm-hmm.
you would hardly hear some presentations that never involved some Louis Bennett pieces. And you would hardly hear any presentation from primary school, from high school that never had Louis Bennett pieces. And she's a world icon.
Yes.
She's not only recognized in Jamaica, she's a world icon. As a matter of fact, Muta Baruka called her the first dub poet.
Mm.
And he performed with her.
Oh.
Yeah, man, Muta performed with Miss
Okay.
Lou.
I didn't
And
know
he
that.
said, this is Jamaica's first dub poet, because other than, before her was Claude McKay, who actually wrote in Jamaican language.
Mm-hmm.
But she is the one who went on stage and performed it
And perform. Yeah, yeah.
and could easily just switch from Jamaican language to English, which surprised everyone. So, Miss Lou,
Okay.
and then Bob Marley have to be there.
Yeah, that
Bob Marley have to be there. I
that would
recently
be my
heard,
pick.
I don't know if you heard this speech by Mia Motley recently to the United Nations. And she referenced Bob Marley's Get Up, Stand Up in the words of Bob Marley. Today, as we speak, Bob Marley is still outselling many of our contemporary
Oh yeah, yeah.
recording artists.
every
every
time the
year,
reggae artists
every year,
put out something and they show the charts or whatever, you would see Bob Marley in
I,
the top three easily. With and it's not even like he's well, he has passed,
no,
but there's nothing new music or anything coming out. But he's still people are still streaming his music. His
because
music
the
is still
issues
being
that he
downloaded.
addresses. You know, when they were tearing down the Berlin Wall,
Mm.
Bob Marley music was used. When Zimbabwe was liberated, Bob Marley music was used. As a matter of fact, he had a song dedicated to the freedom of Zimbabwe.
Of Zimbabwe.
Nothing wrong with in Zimbabwe. Africans are liberate Zimbabwe. And then in a concert in Zimbabwe, the freedom fighters came into the stadium, and when he was performing, they began to fire shots in the air. So of course, some of the band members and the backup singers left stage, and he turned around and said, "Now we'll see who's the real revolutionary," which is actually a line in his song.
Mm.
Soon we'll find out who are the real revolutionaries. When some of the band members left stage, so Bob Marley's music has been used in liberation struggles all over the world. Bob Marley, national hero, cultural icon. National hero, cultural icon. Because I suppose maybe we don't reach a stage where we want to accept and recognize contribution of people
Yeah.
who are not politicians and who are not freedom fighters in terms of armed conflict, but Bob Marley.
Okay, so
Yeah.
the two people now you would bring up to national hero status along with the current seven is one Louis Bennett,
Yeah.
and two Bob Marley.
Yeah, man.
Okay,
Cultural icon. That's what I call it.
I agree with that 100%.
man.
I unfortunately, and I apologize
Don't
to the
apologize.
cultural people. I wasn't thinking of Louis Bennett when I was thinking of adding.
There you are.
I was going straight to Bob Marley.
There you
But
are.
no, you've said it, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Because even when I was like really small and I was really into Bob Marley's music and everything, I joined a pageant in prep school, and one of the songs I sang was for my talent piece was a Bob Marley song, right? That's a tragic story. I talk about it another time. But
Tragic.
but my talent piece was a Bob Marley song, and then my birthday is in February, and so is his.
Yeah.
So I was just like really into Bob Marley at the time. So I was like, I have been a Bob Marley fan from as far back as I can remember. So that is why I immediately would have said, okay, Bob Marley is who I would personally promote to national hero status. But I do agree that Louis Bennett does
let me
deserve
give you another
the
little
spot there
example
as well.
with Bob Marley. I have a niece who would come into my room and listen to Bob Marley music all the time. She would take my tapes. Those days you have cassette. Put the cassette in and listen to Bob Marley music. And then one day she said to me, "Uncle, where can I go to listen to Bob Marley music?" And I said, "Unfortunately, you can't see him performing live anymore." She said, "Why? I want to see him." I said, "He died." She cried.
Oh,
She cried. She could not believe that this man, music, which she loved so much, that she never seen him perform on stage.
yeah, I
You
can
know how old
understand
she
that.
was? She was 7 years old.
Oh,
And she cried. And up until this day, she reveres his music. And Louise Bennett was on radio in London. She was on TV. She was on radio in Jamaica.
she
Come
was.
on. She
Yeah,
was awesome.
yeah.
She was in theater. So my God, man.
Okay.
Yeah. I them that.
All right. So I want you to rank because you had mentioned that
Rank.
was it Bustamante? You
Rank.
said you're not. Yeah. We're going to in order of to you in your personal opinion because that's what it is. In order of importance to Jamaica's heritage and Jamaica's culture and the development of Jamaica, as you said, rank the current 7 national heroes.
I don't know how to rank them.
Like who do you think? Okay,
You
so
know
who
why
do
I
you
don't
think
know to rank them?
contributed the most?
You know I don't know to rank them because of the different eras in which they existed. And I don't like rank people. The same way I don't have the greatest footballer ever or the greatest athlete ever. I don't have that because they're in different eras. And so
Well,
to
Messi
rank
and
them
Usain Bolt to answer those questions.
no,
but
no. To rank them would be terrible. So no, not. To rank them would be terrible. But Nani made a very seminal contribution. Although there are many people who will say, no, she betrayed the Maroons and what have you because Kojo and some of her brothers never agreed to the treaty, but she made a seminal contribution. How else can you look at somebody who fought the British for so long, And the British, in their hypocrisy, signed a treaty to preserve their own self. But the fact that these people were able to resist for so long, without getting any arms from any colonial power, without having any allegiance to anybody. So that's a seminal contribution. Norman Manley made a seminal contribution in terms of his litigation, his defense of black people in terms of even in court. You know, so I would put him right up there. Paul Bogle. I don't know if this will shock some people. Is that like an unintended rebellion? Because it just happened for me out of the blue that he marched to Stony Gut, and when he came back the rebellion happened. But he is very important too. Bustamante, a lot of historians know that this is the truth. Bustamante was thrown into the fray. He was approached by St. William Grant to lead a union because, unfortunately, in those times, a lot of black people weren't really following black people.
Question:
That's why
Who
Marcus
is
Garvey left.
Saint William Grant?
St. William Grant was one of the earlier folk heroes who was in his own right and intellect, and he formed a union.
Okay.
But every time he tried to get the union to operate, it couldn't function. So he approached my man, Buster, to be the face of the union. Just so Buster now come up to be the face of this union, because Buster had just returned from some trips in Panama and all those places. He never named Bustamante, you know. He named William Alexander Clark. So it's when him going on his travels and go to Panama and go to other places and go work in some place and come back to Jamaica that he reinvented himself. Start calling himself Bustamante. And so his contribution is good in the sense that he was one of the first persons who confronted and agitated for workers' rights and stuff. So I would rank him there. Marcus Garvey.
Yeah.
Marcus Garvey. Me name not rank Marcus Garvey. He depend on a
Okay.
league of his
Because I was
own.
about to say, I'm surprised Marcus
Garvey
named
in a league
the
of
Safar.
his
Yeah,
own.
I was just, I thought he was going to say somebody else, and I was going to say,
Marcus Garvey.
you've gone through what, 4 now, and I
No, me
still
that leave him
haven't
for the
heard.
last. He's
Oh,
the
okay,
best for the last.
okay.
Marcus Garvey is a league of his own.
Yeah.
Can you imagine a man in the time that he existed? Because a lot of people don't remember that Marcus Garvey went to school in London. And Marcus Garvey was influenced by a system called Fabian socialism. And Fabian socialism was about re-engineering society, forming political groups, forming unions, trying to get housing and all of those places in place for Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey was influenced by Robert Love, who in the 1850s came up with the idea, one God, one aim, one destiny. Marcus Garvey was influenced by the movement called Ethiopianism, who took a phrase from the Bible, princes and kings shall come out of Egypt. Ethiopia shall stretch forth her hands unto God, and start to look to places outside of Jamaica's redemption. Marcus Garvey took Pan-Africanism to another level. He took all those ideas and he took it to another level. When Marcus Garvey died in 1940, people like Robert Hill and Tony Martin found 4,000 branches of the UNI worldwide. Now, can you imagine? He had newspaper, he had businesses, he had shipping line,
shipping, yeah.
he had so many different organizations that transforms people's lives. I mean, normal street workers and housemaids used to get titles when they joined the UNIA, and they used to dress up in uniform. He had the Black Cross nurses. The man was out of this world. Can you imagine if Marcus Garvey there around today? You have Instagram and Facebook and them things there. Can you imagine? Can you imagine Marcus Garvey in the 21st century? The man that control the whole world.
Yeah.
Because his ideas were so seismic at the time. As a matter of fact, let me give you one last story. South African sailors who were caught with Marcus Garvey's newspapers were in serious trouble. Because you know why? His works were considered seditious. His ideas were considered seditious. His rallying call of up you mighty race, you can accomplish what you will. All those one-liners and one sentence affirmation for people were seismic. Is Robert Hill found Marcus Garvey's work translated into Portuguese, French, and Spanish. No other Jamaican hero has done that. Marcus Garvey wrote his own works, the philosophies and opinions of Marcus Garvey. No other Jamaican hero has done that. Bustamante
Yeah.
has not left a written body of work. Now, man, Marley's work probably is tied up in litigation in courts. Paul Bogan never left. So Marcus Garvey left his ideas in print. And he had newspapers that was Marcus Mosiah Garvey, man. Lord.
Yeah.
Lord.
I can understand that. That's why I was
And
saying how it
remember,
started, but I can
remember
understand that.
also, Marcus Garvey's ideas influenced Rastafari. Marcus Garvey's ideas is the bedrock of Rastafari. So much so that if you hear about the Bobo Shanti, the Bobo have their own trinity. They devise their own trinity. Prince Emmanuel, Marcus Garvey, and Haile Selassie. That's how important Marcus Garvey is to them. So it's a
Prince
very
Emmanuel,
seminal.
Marcus Garvey, and
And
Haile
Haile
Selassie.
Selassie. And to them, Marcus Garvey is a prophet. And they look to his words. And so Marcus Garvey is considered, the strangest thing, Marcus Garvey is considered in American literature and American historiography as a black American hero. Because sadly enough, you realize that 90% of his work was done in America.
Yeah. So
90% of his work was done in his organization, keeping of conferences, his conventions. They were all done in the United States because the United States was a fertile breeding ground for that kind of thing. And what is important about Garvey too is that wherever he went, he built a building and he called it Liberty Hall. So you know Liberty Hall is in Jamaica.
I've heard the name.
Downtown.
Yeah.
You have heard it. You
I've
should
heard the
visit
name.
it.
Yeah.
There's
Okay.
a Liberty Hall in Jamaica, King Street near to Sangster's bookstore. It's easy to find and you can tour it and find. And so he did that. He gave, you know that Marcus Garvey gave stage to Ronnie Williams.
Did not
Yeah,
know that.
man. Ronnie Williams in his early performing days used to perform in Liberty Hall. Marcus Garvey used to have performances and public shows and things for people to come and perform.
This is public knowledge.
This is public knowledge.
Oh,
Marcus Garvey
it's just
wrote
my fault then.
poetry. Marcus Garvey wrote poetry. Not the best poetry in the world still, but he wrote poetry, he wrote
Yeah.
songs. He did his best to encourage people, not only politically, but culturally.
But culture.
And so
Yeah.
the Liberty Hall was the stage that he provided for people to come and showcase their talent. And Ronnie Williams was another product of that. What did do a name again? Bam, I don't remember. Oh God, Biman Bam was also a product of Marcus Garvey's place.
Oh,
So
okay.
there is a lot of Jamaican early entertainers got a stage to perform through the Liberty Hall, through Marcus Garvey's organization. And then one last thing, Marcus Garvey influenced African leaders to stage independence movement. The most obvious one is Ghana. Ghana's football team, went to football. What's the name of Ghana's football team? The Black Stars.
Yes.
And in the middle of Ghana's
Yes.
flag, what do you have? A black star. And what's the colors of the Ghana flag? Apart from the gold, the colors of the UNI. Why? Kwame Nkrumah, as a student in London, heard Marcus Garvey's words and went back to Ghana and initiated movements that resulted in the liberation of Ghana from colonialism. The first African state, other than Ethiopia, that was freed from British colonialism. Jomo Kenyatta was influenced by Marcus Garvey. And a whole slew of African leaders was influenced by Marcus Garvey. The ANC was influenced by Garvey, so much so that when Thabo Mbeki replaced Nelson Mandela as head of state, he gave a lecture at the UWI. I was there. And he spoke for 2.5 hours about Marcus Garvey with no notes. And when he started, he said, this is going to be engaging because I love Marcus Garvey. He took off his jacket and loosened his necktie. And people sit down in amazement that this man from South Africa, who is not Jamaican, know more about Marcus Garvey than many other people.
Yeah.
That's the power of Marcus Garvey. We don't talk.
Okay. All right. Because similar to what you just said about the person who spoke for hours about Marcus Garvey with no notes. I mean, you're doing something similar right now. I mean, we don't have 3 hours, right? Because the episodes aren't that long. But you just, you gave a brief thing, a brief, impactful moment from a couple of years before you got to Marcus Garvey. And then we just spent probably maybe the last 10, maybe 15 minutes talking about Marcus Garvey alone. And I'm sure this is just a tip. And for the life of me, I cannot remember 3/4 of what you just. I can't remember learning 3/4 of what you just said
It's
in
not
high
taught in
school.
schools. No,
Yeah,
it's
no,
not.
I don't.
It's not.
None of it is like
No,
otherwise than the Black Star Liner and the newspaper. The rest of that
and when him
is
born and
news
when
to me.
him
Yeah,
dead.
when him born.
And the name of his organization
Yeah.
and
Otherwise
stuff
than
like that.
those, all of what you're saying right now is new to me.
No, because the colonial education system that we have inherited wouldn't have allowed for that to be taught. And then the administrative of our education system who embraced these colonial trappings wouldn't have been, they're not so inclined. They're not so inclined. The ministries of education are not so inclined. Every time, one of the only politicians who used to harp on certain things, and I think he has retired now, is Mike Henry. Talk about Marcus Garvey, talk about legalization, talk about reparations. The rest of them don't have a clue. And even if they do have a clue, they can't blame them because they were not taught.
Yep.
They were not taught it in school. And the UWI has a course in social sciences. I don't know if they still have it. Garvey isn't. I don't know if they still have it. Rupert Lewis used to lecture it.
I think I've heard somebody talking about it. It's probably still there.
Yeah, Rupert used to lecture it. And Cecil Gosmore used to lecture it. But I don't know if they still have it. So that was the only place that you would hear a fulsome engagement about Marcus Garvey. High schools, no.
No, yeah,
That's not there.
Even
No.
not even in. Oh, well, I was about high school is high school.
No, you're not gonna hear about that.
All right. Two more. I think it's Sam and I've forgotten his name. I remembered it like a minute ago.
Sam Sharp.
Sam Sharp and George William Gordon.
George William Gordon.
Yeah,
The
those two are
reluctant
the
hero.
ones that left.
Oh, sorry. I said that. George William Gordon was not involved in the Morantby Rebellion. George William Gordon was a friend of Paul Bogle, and they used to have some correspondence. When George William Gordon was imprisoned, and you can go to BBC World, BBC has a podcast, and a diary was found written by a priest who spoke to Gordon. Gordon denied to the priest that he was involved in the Morantby Rebellion. Gordon was taken from Kingston and carried to St. Thomas and carried on a ship. I don't remember the name of the ship. Gordon was hanged on a ship outside the harbor in St. Thomas. Gordon was a threat to the assembly that existed. You know why? He was a member of the assembly, and he was championing the cause of people, but he wasn't involved in the Morantby Rebellion. So because of his contribution, you know that Gordon was the founder of Victoria Mutual Building Society.
I didn't know that.
There you are. He was a founder, and so those things that he did, they were seismic, and so I appreciate him for that. So I don't want us to only look at him as being a part of the Morantby Rebellion. The history needs to be rewritten about Gordon's involvement, because it was much more than just being associated with the Morantby Rebellion. Starting a financial institution, Victoria Mutual, being a member of the assembly, and agitating for black people's causes. That is why Bogle related to him, because he was already doing those kinds of works. You know, so Gordon wasn't hung because of his involvement in the Morantby Rebellion. It was much deeper than that. He was somebody who they wanted to get rid of. And I said before, and I wonder if enough Jamaicans know it. Some people know it, that he was taken on a ship and he was hung on the ship out in the harbor. So his contribution was seminal. Sam Sharp is a forerunner to Mahatma Gandhi. Why we say that? And the first man who staged a peaceful, non-violent demonstration. Maybe that's where Mahatma Gandhi got his ideas from. I don't know. I'm just extrapolating.
Yeah.
But Sam Sharp was seminal in terms of resisting without violence because of his he was a deacon and everything in the Baptist church and what have you, and he was somebody who drove the the buggy. That's what he was, He was a buggy driver, and so he was also a deacon in the church.
Did they call it chauffeur back then?
I don't know. A chauffeur? I
Oh.
don't know what them call it. Buggy driver.
But
Never call black man chauffeur in them time. 1830 at that time, but you're really serious? And so he was seminal in that. And then you know what, people, the history need to be rewritten about that as well. The Sam Sharp revolt affected Hanover, Westmoreland, St. James. It wasn't just St. James alone. It was so highly organized that it affected all those parishes. It crippled a lot of the plantations that were around at that time. You can imagine 1832 and you don't have people working on your plantation.
Yeah.
And people sat down and many of them used the word strike them timely, but they refused to work. And then after that, like the Morant Bay Rebellion, hundreds of people were killed in a week. You know that 300 Jamaicans were killed in 1 week in St. Thomas during the Morant Bay Rebellion. That is even properly catalogued. So, yeah, them man they're really, really crucial with development. And that's why to me he is a seminal hero, because what he did was unthinkable at the time to resist the colonial British government that the British had a thing called Britannia ruled the waves, because at that time, that was their phraseology. Britannia ruled the waves. 90% of Africa, a lot of the Caribbean, and so the empire was huge. Then you have Australia, and them chop off piece of China.
In regards to their naval fleet?
No, it's not their naval fleet only, it's just the power of their empire.
Okay, yeah.
It was the spread of their empire.
I mean, they did do a lot. I was watching like some world history things on YouTube.
Yeah, if you're a little island like that.
Yeah.
If you're a little island like that.
No, serious. I think it's this thing on YouTube called Oversimplified, where it takes these these great world events that has happened over the years, and it just shrinks them down into 20-minute bites that you can easily watch and digest. And so they had Britain or whatever labeled as blue, and then they like fast forwarded a couple of years, and then you see all these blue patches all over the world.
Yeah.
And when you look at it's okay, it's not like this small, but it's like it's an island outside of another piece of land, and they managed to take over so many other countries, and they managed to have influence in so many other places. It was shocking.
But we'll go into that some more though. That needs to be dug up, because look, at the time when they did that in Europe was facing some serious problems. One reason the Europeans flooded out of Europe, and I call it flooded out of Europe, was that they had their own internal mess. Like, for example, the Spanish fought the Africans, who people call Moors, for 700 years in a war called the Reconquest. After the Reconquest, now 700 years. Africans ruled Spain for 700 years. And after the Reconquest, the economy was battered. The soldiers never knew a thing. And they flooded out. And they went to seek new lands. The same thing with the British. Because the Romans were in Britain for like 200 years. And after the Romans left, because they called the Britons lazy people, Britain was in a state of just total chaos. And they flooded out of Britain to go seek new lands, to go colonize, to get what? Resources.
Yeah.
To get resources. Whatever those resources were, they got it. And so that was part of it. But the Englishman is a hypocrite. Englishman is a hypocrite. Whatever they did to sign with people, to make pact with people, they never honored it. And then they brought their forces, their armies, and whatever. So it's a lot of history to unravel about how the British conquered the world. I don't think we can be naive and say, how is it that the people allow them to do that? But then people allow them into their place, and they turn around and deceive them and overthrow them and kill their leaders. The Spanish did it too with the Aztecs in what we call present-day Mexico. They went there, and they did it in Jamaica with the Tainos. And they brought, I want Jamaica to listen to this. They brought diseases. They brought pandemics. The first one was smallpox. It decimated the Aztec in South America. The other one that they brought to Jamaica decimated the Taino population. It wasn't just only violence alone that decimated the people. Illness also played a part in it. So coronavirus is not the first pandemic the world has seen. And so we have to understand that the Europeans, in their quest to find resources for their countries where half of the year they couldn't produce their resources. And not only that, we must realize that because of the cold climate that existed, and the history probably needs to be spoken about one day about that. Many people were dying when it was cold. thousands of people used to die in homes in England when it was cold because they never have internal heating. And so they had to find resources to fuel the growth of their country. There was a British Prime Minister named Benjamin Disraeli who said that the River Thames is a royal stink because they used to dump sewage in the River Thames. And in the House of Parliament, they used to smell the River Thames. And
because it's like right by it.
yeah, and he questioned, where are we going to get resources to rebuild our country, to refashion it, and there you are. The canola project was a source of funds. The plantations in Jamaica enriched England, the plantations in other countries, and the resources gained from other countries. A lot of people don't remember, say, the USA was a colony of the British.
Of the British, yeah.
The first 13 states were 13 chartered companies. They were not originally states, They were actually companies. And they used to participate in the slave trade in the Caribbean. And they used to participate in trading goods to the Americans. Until there was some disagreement over tea, according to them, over tea, which is not really truthful. And then the lie about George Washington being whoever it is. George Washington was a royalist. He was a colonel in the British Army. He never was some little man who just came off a farm and just suddenly become this great general. He was already a military man. And so when the time came around, it was easy for him to organize armies. You see, all these little things have to be cleared up in history. So, but that's where it go. The British and the Spanish and the Portuguese, and not to mention the French, ravaged the world. And they are doing it now still.
Yeah.
Just check the coronavirus. Just check that.
One of the just to back up the thing about the French before we move on. One of the things I watched on the same YouTube channel, Oversimplified, was Napoleon's story of how this, average height for the time man
5'2"
managed to do all of what he did. Yeah. So I mean, for those who are interested in history as much as I am, and you have 20 minutes to spare, you can go on YouTube and look at Oversimplified.
I don't like oversimplification though.
No, but you see, because
I don't like that.
It's for entertainment value. Just to put it there, because I don't think there's any guarantee that if you tell the facts detail for detail, word for word, everything for everything. I mean, personally, I think I would lose interest after maybe the first.
No, you can't tell the facts like 45. That. You have to. When I taught history, for example, I was teaching the Haitian Revolution to some third formers, and I just let them act it out in segments. I just let them act it out in segments. Give them the information, go and prepare the props and stuff, let them act it out in segments. And then I did that for the duration of that little module. And then when the test was set, everybody school will agree. Them say, sir, but you never tell us this. But I say you acted it.
But you acted it, yeah.
You acted it, and that by acting it, you imbibe it. And so we must make history come alive for people rather than just go to class and give a lecture.
Yeah.
There are too many active things in history that you could illustrate that could take it away from. Because that's what I did. I taught history. And that's what I did in my classes. Sometimes when the class finishes, students sit down, see me. Say, sir, I must say, no, you have to go to your next class. Yeah. You can't sit down anymore. Come, go on your class. Because you have to make it come alive. It's living. History is living, even though it has passed and gone away. So that's the most important thing.
I enjoyed history class back in high school. Yeah. All right, so we're about to track back and go way back.
Okay.
To two things I picked out from when you were listening to contributions of the national heroes. So Marcus Garvey is a root part of Rastafarianism.
His ideas.
All right, his ideas.
Some of his ideas.
Yeah. And Nani, I mean, it's in the name, Nani of the Maroons. So I'm picking out now Maroons and Rastas, and I'm now asking you about like their contribution to Jamaica, our culture.
I'm going to say something controversial.
Ooh.
I don't like the name.
I mean, something
Maroons.
else controversial.
I don't like the name Maroons.
Okay.
Where are Maroons from? Where is Maroon land? Because what we have done, we have, as black people, we have appropriated so many negative connotations to ourselves. And Maroon come from Cimarron, which is the Spanish term to describe people who have been lost. And so they have taken it on. But that aside, they have made a seminal contribution. And one thing I ask people is that, how could you say that these people All right. One of the things that they used to disparage the Maroons is the fact that Paul Bogle was captured. But how can you not look at the fact that they existed before the Spanish, before the British came, and they existed right up until 1800s? Now, where else would they have gotten people to come and join their forces other than a lot of people who ran away from plantations?
Yeah.
They weren't reproducing at such a fast rate that their numbers could also be just constantly populated and they could have people. So the fact that they did that, they were adding to this system of resistance to enslavement, because a lot of people don't realize that over 150 uprisings occurred in Jamaica. Some of them have not even been recorded. Over 200 plantations were burnt in Westmoreland, Hanover, and St. James during the Sam Sharp revolt. And so a lot of people don't realize the Maroon contribution to Jamaica's history is so seismic that it is yet to be written to me. I read a book called The Maroons by a lady called Bev Carey. But that's the only thing that is written about the Jamaican Maroons that is extensive, that still needs to be discovered. So yes, they are very, very important. And I don't join with people by saying, oh, them did betray Paul Bogle. Contemporaneously, I would have to look at people who are surviving and signing a contract with these British people, a contract which they never honored, because in the late 1800s, when they were still in charge of Jamaica, although there was emancipation, they were still in charge. They repudiated the contract. They null and void the contract between themselves and the Maroons. That's what the British did, and so the Maroons are still holding on to it. So for me, they have been is an inspiration to me. Rastafari, me a Rastaman. So
Couldn't
Rastafari
tell.
embraced Marcus Garvey. Rastafari embraced Marcus Garvey's idea of repatriation. That was a seminal thing. This idea of returning home. Rastafari embraced Marcus Garvey's idea of love of our African self as black people. Rastafari embraced the sayings about up you mighty race, you can accomplish what you will. Rastafari embraced the whole notion that you must have your own economics. I mean, in the early days of the Rastafari movement, one feature was the Rasta man who was his own economic unit. The Bobo Shanti took it to the extent where they used to make brooms. And I don't know if you, in your timeline, you have ever seen the Bobo man walking selling brooms. That was their economic
It's like at
survival.
least 100 brooms.
Yes.
Just like.
And oh God, sorry. And then now Marcus Garvey's ideas were embraced in the early days by the PMP. Yeah, all right. Let me tell you one thing. Housing, free education. Who formed the first political party in Jamaica? The PPP, Marcus Garvey. And so Marcus Garvey's contribution is so seminal that people like Rupert Lewis has spent years researching and talking about Marcus Garvey's works and his ideas. And I said before, Marcus Garvey is not only a Jamaican hero, he's our only hero that is an international hero. Marcus Garvey is our only hero that is recognized in other countries as a hero as well. As I said before, in Ghana, in Kenya, and then this one blew my mind when I read Robert Hill's work to say he found Marcus Garvey's works in libraries in Portugal and Spain, translated into Portuguese. I said, seriously? Because Robert Hill has a series of books called the Garvey Papers, 10 volumes, right? And he said when he was searching for some of the material, he found in a Spanish library and in a Portuguese library translated works of Marcus Garvey. Now this man is very important. And so Rastafari embraced his ideas. And I'm repeating myself by saying that in the trinity of the Bobo Shanti, Marcus Garvey has pride of place. They have Haile Selassie, they have Marcus Garvey, and they have Prince Emmanuel. And so that's the contribution. And
yeah, so all right. So I think that's where we're going to wait, what? um, I think right there is a good point for us to stop. I feel like you could go on for like the rest of the day.
Enough talk.
Yeah. I'm not sure, but this might end up being our longest episode so far. But yeah, so I learned
What?
a lot of things that I didn't know before, and things I can say I should have learned. I hope the viewers learned a lot as well. For those who didn't know, like myself, if you knew already, just it's cool. Don't publicize it. So is there anything you'd like to plug before we close? Like,
The only thing I want to plug is that we must learn to practice our culture in a more confident way. And another thing I want to plug is that we must learn to stop talking about Jamaica as class systems. Jamaica is still we practice racism without even realizing it.
yeah,
The very fact that we keep marginalizing other people is racist ideas. The very fact that we keep saying here bad is racist ideas. The very fact that we still disparage color, these are racist ideas. And so yes, there's this notion of classism, but racist ideas have been so imbibed in people that even notions of bleaching the skin is a repudiation of self. And so we need to be more self-confident. We need to be more self-accepting, and we need to be less oppressive towards each other. Because there can be hegemony within a society. It don't have to come from outside alone. There can be hegemony practiced in a society by its rulership. We don't know.
all right. You have a restaurant?
The alternative vegan
Good.
vegetarian restaurant, come and eat.
Location?
53 Angel Avenue in Spanish Town.
There you
And you
go.
can find the alternative on Instagram,
There we
on
go.
Facebook,
There you go.
and all the other platforms. Not on TikTok yet. TikTok is not a platform, is it?
It is, yeah,
It is?
Yeah.
But it's not there yet. So it's
not
on
on.
Instagram. You'll find pictures, you'll find recipes, you'll find people have come, and you'll find some little videos. So
Okay.
come eat food, man.
All
We have
right.
enough more recipes to unfold.
All right. So we link all of that in the description below. If you live in the Spanish Town area, if you're passing through, I think you can, if you're coming off the highway in Spanish Town, you're going past there.
Yes.
So swing by, grab a bite,
And juice too.
and grab a drink,
And reasoning too.
and grab a reasoning.
Yeah, man. You have to reason. You can get instructions about healthy living as well. Not only just food-wise, but just generally speaking. You know, and we love that. So that's
right.
it. Life
So-
goes on.
Yeah. All right. So thank you for coming.
Thank you for
Osayimwese. Thank you for coming out. Thank you for teaching me actually
Okay.
a lot of Jamaica's history and a
Okay.
lot of history about the national heroes.
Okay.
Thank you for being on the show. Thank you for viewing. This has been FiwiFewCents. I've been your host, Kmanii. This has been our guest, Osayimwese. And I will see you guys next week. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and take care of yourself. Bye.